guys, your Gen Z rep here to sign you into a wonderful day with my homegirls right here, Jasiri and Fansmi. Welcome to the show. Ladies, how you doing? How you feeling? What's good?
Blessings. What is it with this energy this morning? I hope there's not more to this, because I don't ever understand.
And you people talk about there being a spirit in that chair.
Yes, it's that chair.
Oh my God.
I was going to say,
when you were on vacation, she did everything to channel your spirit. It was so
I will go
scary to watch.
facts and figures.
Yes.
Like, you guys, hold on, let me give you the
We
facts.
almost had a seance. I was saying, did Tolu
At some point, I was like,
coming to
ladies,
you?
one at a time, please. And now I check myself. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love it. It's all right.
Okay.
All right.
So what's it with the energy?
This is the idea. It just drained me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the truth is, I finally have some good news to share. Now, in the midst of everything that we've been going through, there is finally light at this tunnel, because I feel like this is the end of it. But the good news comes from the Paris Olympics, where Nigerian powerlifter Esther Nwogu made history for the country on Wednesday when she won the silver medal for the powerlifting women's up to 41 kg category at the Olympics finale on Wednesday. Now, Nwogu set 2 new Paralympics lifting records, one for 112 kg and her second attempt, and 118 kg on her third attempt. Now, what makes this even more emotional is that she actually had dislocated her shoulder 2 days to the finale, so she competed with just one shoulder. In her victory speech, Nwogu mentioned that she was in fact advised by the doctor not to compete, but she went on to do it. Don't try this at home anyway. She said that she came to Paris with no expectation, but now it feels like heaven to have won the silver medal. And you ask me why I'm so excited?
Yeah.
and I'm sure people will wonder what's next for her. The 21-year-old who lost the use of her legs as an 8-year-old child with no clinical reason started para weightlifting around 18 years old. And she said, and I quote, "I accepted my disability, joined it with the love in my personality, and in quotes, and in brackets, the medal is the result." She is a Guinness World Powerlifting record holder. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our girl.
You know that I have to say categorically that I am very proud of a lot of our athletes that are disabled, because since they've been competing, they have been winning. Every Olympics that they go, these Paralympics, Nigerians win. And I think they do very well in this powerlifting
Yes, we have a
category,
fantastic
particularly.
powerlifting team.
But another thing, you know, I know this is a win for us, but they need to help her check that shoulder, because there are some times when they advise you against something. I just hope it hasn't wrecked something beyond, you know,
hasn't
repair.
strained it.
So
And
please,
then sometimes, most times they call it differently abled, not disabled.
differently able.
Differently
But
able. Thank you, Gen Z rep.
Thank
for
you.
that.
With
That's
your
why I'm
half
here.
top.
I think
Because this is not a shirt. This is something.
Lolo, you were
Why
saying
must you
something,
point that out?
focus on what you were
It's a
saying.
shirtlet.
Yeah.
Okay, is this where your intelligence comes from the shortness of your...
It gives me confidence to express my intelligence.
And now
more.
it's as if confidence is the bane of the day, because Esther, I think she was high on her adrenaline.
Yes.
So we had a point to prove.
Yeah.
The
But
girl,
she's
she just went all
21,
out.
which means she still has more Paralympic games ahead of her.
Ahead of
You
her.
know, we have a number of
Excitement.
the excitement. She deserves the excitement.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when we talk about the resilience of Nigerians and the strength of women as well, there are so many lessons in her story for us to take notice of. But Esther, we are so
Proud
proud
of
of
you.
you.
And I pray that Nigerians will please, Nigerian government should please invest in these our athletes that help, try to hold the flag of Nigeria high in all these competitions, because when you hear the gory stories of how they have to practically train themselves to be able to compete in some of these competitions, it's very disheartening.
It is.
And when they now bring the glory, we want to share in it.
And we're
Please, let's be a part of their story at the from the beginning,
I was
so
gonna
that
say that.
when the weight of glory comes, we would feel really, really good. Because Nigerians like to take glory. When you see
And we're very good
a
at
Nigerian
fancying.
athlete that never grew up
I
in
want to
Nigeria.
congratulate our very own. Now, fans on our
Anthony
fans.
Joshua always
Anthony
comes to
Joshua,
mind very quickly.
yeah.
And it's not just even athletes. I think we also do it when we hear about business people, entrepreneurs, even community leaders or politicians who are actually young politicians outside of the country.
Of
All of a
Nigerian
sudden, this
descent.
attaché attaché spirits comes out of us and we want to attach.
And we
But
did
in
nothing.
our own home, in our own country, we make it difficult for young people to rise to these levels of political governance and things. We make it difficult. The para power lifter, I have to get it right because I just did the sports team did a special on them ahead of their preparations for the games. They talked about the fact that they don't always get support.
This is what I said.
Even, whether it's the Olympic team or the Paralympic team, you find so many of our athletes having to coach themselves outside, having to take care of themselves. I don't know if you guys saw the trending video of the Super Eagles training camp ahead of a qualifier that they have. That video was trending yesterday, and you can just, and then of course, oh my, he will kill me. Babatunde Koiki, the head of our sports desk, did that special on the National Stadium and how it looks. So if you haven't seen that, please go and search for it. It's just disheartening to see the things that are supposed to be the center of our sports administration, the foundations of our sports, just being left derelict. And if you get there, the National Stadium is a budget. It is a line item in a budget year by year. That's some kind of maintenance, some kind of money is going into, but it disappears in thin air.
I have the privilege of going to the National Stadium sometimes. You will see a lot of citizens of Nigeria, Lagosians there, even exercising, using the facility. But you cannot still divorce the state of the facility itself. And yet there are people that if they really put it to good use, they can even earn from it.
You know, Nigerians, I think we're not surprised anymore about the state of abandoned properties and abandoned projects.
We've always had an issue with maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance has always been a big deal, and the National Stadium is just an epitome of that. In as much as someone comes in with ginger to work and to turn things around, there is a problem of continuity. The person will say, okay, listen, I'm gonna, and then when the person leaves, and maybe you're talking, the person is no longer in government, and you talk to somebody who is now in government, the person tells you that, I don't know why you killed yourself over, I mean, what was the point? Look at it now, it has just, and it doesn't even encourage you. Where are we going with that?
Oh, no, I know where we're going, National Theatre.
Where are we going?
National
Tolu
Theatre.
don't go there. Tolu has always been.
The same desolation is there.
Tolu's has always breaks.
I've told you how I feel about National Theatre. I remember when we were on the other side of the thing, and I would drive on a Bridge and I would look at it and I just think about if it was the people in Dubai, if it was somebody in San Francisco, if it was even, I'll say it's even in South Africa. Well, this is a prime piece of real estate that can be turned into a resort in the middle of Lagos. The water parts you'll use for water park, you'll use for jet ski, you'll use for fishing. There's just so much you could do with agriculture there. You do a resort with different types of hotels for different levels of income. Like, I was like,
I intentionally said it because I know Tolu has a very soft spot for National Theatre. Every time, and it has changed management so many times. Even though we're talking about the National Stadium, but these are some of our prime properties. These are things that the people look at, they use, it's functional. I remember when I used to watch plays there. Those stages were built purposefully, international standard.
What do you remember of National Theatre?
This young lady.
Exactly. That's
She
why I
doesn't
asked.
even know. We used to go
remember
there
Jack.
for auditions in the early years.
Voila. That's
Under
why I
the
asked.
tree.
Because it's
I
just
beg
lost
you.
no, you even talk about under the tree. You know, when you're passing, you see the slope of the grass. Imagine having families being able to go there for picnics, for fairs.
No.
Who did
DG
Nigeria?
of National Theatre loading for you. No, but I'd rather you take over. I'll take National Theatre. You take the agency of...
Orientation.
So if they're listening, NOADG.
So what would Blessing say? If we're delegating?
We have to look at...
I think about it.
Youth and what? I think...
Minister of Youth.
Youth, yeah.
And women.
It's youth and something.
Youth and culture.
Yeah, because you know the nomenclature has changed.
Don't culture me.
What's wrong with culture?
You can't take one and leave the other.
I have to know about what I'm ministering to.
You can be good.
But what would...
Okay,
Catherine would Catherine
Well, I have no idea.
tourism?
Yeah, I think
Bilingual.
I think that tourism would make sense. Yeah.
Just look at your ladies. We're just here waiting for our appointments.
I know, right? The earlier the better, because we have a lot of plans for this country.
Honestly, but really, let's come back to Esther's win. It's a phenomenal win. She's not the only Nigeria Paralympian that has done us proud in the past few days, and I know this is at the finale of the games. The games are also wrapping up, and I'm very sure that our sports team will be giving you more details of how Nigeria did much better than we did at the Olympics. And it feels like we've forgotten that until the next set of games are coming, until the next qualifiers for something is coming, until the next Olympics, and then somebody will say that, no, we did not get the information on time. No,
someone assumed, obviously.
No, Nigerians, it's our culture, fire brigade. We do things only at the nick of time.
But it doesn't work. It's a different thing. It's a different thing if you're fire brigade, procrastination, sort of ADHD that Nigeria seems to have with governance, attention deficit hyper disorder that we seem to have with governance actually resulted in positivity. You know, there's some people who can procrastinate at the last minute and they come out looking like geniuses.
Something really good.
That is not Nigeria.
Yes.
That is not Nigeria.
It is not.
It's an unfortunate situation, but one that will, of course, continue to keep our eyes on.
And when you get in, Esther, we would love to have you.
I wanted to say that. So, ladies, before we move on.
Girl time. Like, I'm inspired by you. I'm going to start powerlifting.
You can't
in my
start
sleep.
Powerlifting. You can power lift.
In my sleep, actually.
Remove the para.
I'll be para.
She's going to be lifting
no,
her sleep.
I'll
It's
be
going to be bread.
You can get bread. I'll be para as I am powerlifting.
You know, I can imagine her saying, yeah.
It's serious, yeah.
No, the next thing will be, hurry me. Okay, let's be serious. But before we go, we want to raise our cups to Esther. Thank you so much, Esther, for making us proud. And from the ladies of the Jasiri table, your story is one of resilience and, of course, strength. We raise our cups to you.
To Esther.
We look forward to seeing you. Now, when Jasiri returns after the break, we get into a conversation around tertiary education in Nigeria. How has the proliferation of private universities affected the education sector? Is government abdicating its responsibilities with the approval of private tertiary institutions? Join the conversation coming up next.
Welcome back to Jasiri. We are live on all our social media platforms. Use the hashtag Jasiri, and we're at News Central TV. When you hashtag Jasiri, then we'll know you're part of the conversations. 149. It's a number, but this time that's the number of private universities there are here in Nigeria, while there are 63 state universities and 62 federal universities. Now, there are several angles to consider when looking at the proliferation of private tertiary institutions in Nigeria, which range from educational quality and accessibility to economic impact and regulatory frameworks. Joining us now is Mojeed Alabi. He is the head of Development Desk, Premium Times, and the chairman, Education Writers Association of Nigeria. Let's welcome Mojeed Alabi back to Jasiri. Mojeed, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you back.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so Mojeed, 149 private tertiary institutions in one country. I think that for a long time we've assumed that we know the reasons or the factors that have contributed to the rapid increase in the number of universities. You know, one would say the lack of space, the quality, different factors like that. But we can't start off based on assumptions. So I'm just going to ask, what are the major factors that contributed to the rapid increase, and do the historical factors have anything to do with it?
Yeah, thank you so much. Let me first correct one impression. Yeah, when you say private universities, you also say private tertiary institutions.
Yes.
Private universities are quite different. You know, we have different levels of tertiary institutions in Nigeria. You have about, you have polytechnics, which are about 179 or thereabout. You have a college of education, which is about 236. You have those that you also categorize as innovative, innovative enterprises institutions. So those ones are like monotechnics. We also have monotechnics differently. So you have about a total of 1,100 tertiary institutions accredited that are known to government.
Okay.
About 1,100 accredited tertiary institutions. People may believe that they are very much. Yeah. Is it in number? Is it in quality? So it's not just about quantity. All of them are still not up to what Nigeria needs. But unfortunately, there's a misplacement of priority, like I always say. We want to believe that because the population grows, if you look at the history of tertiary education in Nigeria, it started with Yabatek, which was actually linked to Achimota College. You had UI, which was affiliated to a foreign institution. Then gradually we started to build. And some of these institutions were actually created to support the, what I call the required skills, manpower needs of the country.
At that time.
At that time. So gradually, and the government actually invested so heavily. There was a kind of competition where you had the regional government also saying, look, this, and that's what I was telling somebody, that when we had the regional system of government, there was a kind of a rivalry, which was competitive and very heavy one. The idea of a minimum wage started from the Southwest region, because at the time, Southwest region was even giving higher, was paying higher than the Nigerian government at the center. So it was on that basis that you had people who are working with probably what we call all these federal institutes in Southwest. They were earning lesser than what the Southwest regional government was paying. And that was what actually led to the agitation for national minimum wage. Because people were flooding the Southwest to go and work because they were earning better. And that was how the universities like OAU started, because they had the vision that, okay, we are growing in population. So we needed to also grow in terms of the manpower needs of the country. And you look at it, when OAU was actually established, it had about 13,000 hectares of land. The original master plan had a kind of helipad. You understand, as part of the master plan. It had its own farm. It's a community on its own.
It's a self-sufficient community.
They didn't need anything from outside. You can be in OAU and not go out of the campus for the whole of your 4 years if you don't have any business to do. And it is so structured that you can move from one academic area to your hostel without even touching, without having sun touching you, without having rain touching you, because everywhere is so structured. So when you look at that, that was how the growth came. But over time, when LASU was created in 1984 or thereabout, it was because of the Lagos State government. They needed manpower, and they realized that, and that was why LASU, when it was created, didn't have hostels, because it was meant to be a kind of for adult education. People who are working with federal government, with state government, they needed, that was the basis. And they were competing globally. They had facilities, not like LASU, but when you go to UI, you go to OAU, you go to ABU. If you go to ABU, Uni-Ilorin as of today has about 16,000 hectares of land, but universities have gone beyond spaces. So the fact is that the number of institutions that we have does not matter at this time.
You know, Mr. Mojeed, I was just following this talk about growth. And we know that over the past few decades, private universities have been growing. And we've had public universities. If we're going to put the two on a pedestal, how can you compare its growth? Would you say that the influx of private tertiary institutions has maybe amplified the lack of growth in public universities? How can we put the two together?
Yeah, thank you so much. We have to go to the foundation of the private universities in Nigeria. Private universities in Nigeria, to me personally, were not created, and I think it started around 1999-2000. When you have, you know, when you look at the political class in Nigeria, they created these institutions to actually kill the public institutions. And it is sad, it's a sad reality that you had a sitting president, a sitting vice president allocating licenses to themselves. You had Bells University of Technology, created by, owned by Obasanjo. They awarded licenses to themselves. You had Atiku with American University of Nigeria. So who will start a private university and want to commit to public university? They will not. And when you look at what they do, even after they had left government, I can tell you sincerely that because most of these universities, we have to understand the fact that universities are not just in the normal climb, ID system. Universities are not things that you just create, just wake up and you create a university. I could tell you that South Africa for about 5, 6, 7 years, they were on a planning for a university. But in Nigeria, they wake up one day, they award license. In fact, the unions on campuses will call it constituency project at this time. It is created as constituency project. because we have this problem that we just need to, it's just what comes to your mind in Nigeria is about ethnicity, it's about religion, it's about balancing. So that challenge of balancing has now pushed us to just create mushrooms that we now call universities. Most of those institutions are not created to support the system. They are created, it's either they are created for political settlement or they are created for personal profit, for gains. Most of these institutions are not there to help the system to grow. And that is why, since we have been having private universities in Nigeria, the enrollment in those private universities is still less than 10-15% of the university students in Nigeria. The total enrollment. Go and check. If I want to tell you sincerely, go and check the enrollment of some of these private universities. 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. What does it help us? Many of them are in shanties. Go and check most of those institutions. They don't have facilities. But because my friend is there, my brother is there, I can tell you authoritatively clear today that there are some private universities, about 22 to be licensed by the NUC. I want to tell you that they have not done what they ought to have done.
Wait, hold on. So it was in February that 2 private tertiary institutions were approved. You're now saying that there are 22 on standby
Currently.
to be approved by the NUC.
Currently.
Okay, so that takes me to my next question. So we know that the cost of state or federal institutions cannot be compared with the cost of private ones. When announcing President Tinubu's approval for the 2 new universities earlier this year, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, said, I quote, "Government, being well aware that education holds the key to the preparation we speak of, will continue to welcome partnership with the private sector, especially in the area of university education. As long as the gap of access to university education continues to widen and the enrollment of students in excess of the standard carrying capacity of the Nigerian university system persists, governments will continue to welcome proposals for the funding and infrastructural development." That's the end of his quote. So the question I was going to ask you was whether or not private tertiary institutions were actually contributing to decreasing the gap in education, but you've answered that question already. So then takes us to a conversation around how do we find a balance? If you're saying that we have over 1,000 plus private tertiary institutions of different levels.
Just
1,000 plus tertiary institutions of different levels, be it Polytechnic, private, whatever not. And then we have the demand, and these private institutions right now are only taking about 10% of the demand. How do we find the balance? Because we can clearly see, one, Nigeria does not adequately invest in education, be it at any level, not even just university level or tertiary level. We do not adequately invest. Then we're seeing this increase in proliferation in private tertiary institutions. How do we find a balance? If government seems to be awarding 22 universities are awaiting NUC approval, where's the balance? How do we ensure that it fits the educational needs? We're closing the gap rather than turning this into a money-making venture.
Thank you so much. The bane of this nation is actually just corruption. And I'm going to let you know that if the minister has the opportunity to listen to us, the minister must understand the fact that it is not just about his legacies. Will not be in just the announcement of number of private universities we are able to establish or public universities we are able to establish. The core thing, like I mentioned sometimes ago when I was here, the regulatory body, it's also not regulated. For the universities, we have the National Universities Commission. For more than a year, the National Universities Commission does not have a board. In fact, 2 years, does not have a governing board.
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
But
now.
how are they now ready to accept 22 applications?
That's number one. Number two is the fact that the NUC, as of today, does not have a substantive executive secretary.
But they're ready to accept 22.
As of today, I'm telling you that there are about 12 or 13 units in NUC, National Universities Commission. The 13 or 12 of them, they only have, I think only one of them, of the directors that they have, is a substantive director. All of them, they are in acting capacity. You know, you have a limit. You have limitations when you have acting capacity. One of them has been there for more than 5 years in acting capacity. It means that place they have closed what is called administration there.
Exactly. But they want to approve 22 new universities.
And that is what we are saying, that it is corruption. let me tell you sincerely, even among them, there was a time we were running series on the crisis rocking NUC. In terms of management, the minister closed his eyes against the terrible politics going on around there. And unfortunately, if a president comes in and is so much interested in fixing Nigeria, and he has abandoned what he should do within the education sector, it took him about a year to be able to give governing board to TED Fund, which is the funding organization. So it took him, I can tell you today, it took him about a year or more than a year to give governing councils to tertiary institutions, those universities, those polytechnics that you've seen. And I can explain to you that the major challenge is that everybody is trying to take for the system. I've not accused anybody in particular, but the problem is this. When you are going for accreditation, go and check, go and check. I've never seen it anywhere where the executive secretary of an organization is the one also leading a team to do accreditation or resource verification. Who does that? So when you get your report, who do you bring it to?
Because I read the report and I sent it back to myself.
It's very questionable that we have leadership that have gaps, people acting in acting capacity, that any of their decisions at that time can just be thrown out.
Hold that thought.
means we'll be...
Hold that thought, Lolo. Guys, as you can see, this is interesting conversation taking place here on the Jasiri table. We're talking about education, tertiary education at that. But we'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll look at if the increase in private tertiary institutions has to do with actually closing the education gap or if this is just a money game. The discussions will continue.
Many thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Jasiri Live, and we have Mojeed Alabi with us as we look at the proliferation of private tertiary institutions in Nigeria and the impact on the educational sector. Now, last year in November, it was reported that the federal government was once again considering 270 fresh applications for private universities. During the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, at least 90 universities were approved for operation. And we also know that 2 private universities were approved in February this year. Now, the question remains, are these private institutions about bridging the educational gap or making money, which Mojeed has spoken extensively to. But Mojeed, my question to you would be that, I mean, we've established the fact that, well, not certainly, but allegedly we can see that there are a lot of figureheads in the administrative position, right? So my question is, we're seeing so many universities lined up for approval. You've mentioned tertiary institutions lined up for approval. But are there standards that these institutions must meet before they're approved, or do they just throw it out and just throw out approvals as well?
Oh, thank you so much. Each regulatory body, whether it is NUC or NCCE for college of education, or MBTE for polytechnics or monotechnics, or enterprise institute, they also have their standard. You know, in Nigeria, law is not our problem.
No, beautiful legislation is not our problem.
We don't have any problem with it. So, but when it comes to implementation, that is where politics comes in. That is where corruption comes in. An average person, you are expected. I'm so shocked that I won't mention names. I can tell you that one big man owns a university around Lekki. You understand? Lekki, they relocated the university from somewhere down to Lekki. Yeah. And I can tell you that today, that university has only 2, as of about 2 weeks ago, had only 2 substantive lecturers.
When you say substantive, what does that mean? Because I need
full-time lecturers.
No. Which also means they, wait, I'm going somewhere. They meet NUC's requirements. I think they're supposed to have masters, be working towards their PhD. They fit that.
So, no. They are just, you know, when you are to start a particular program, there are certain things that you must have.
Definitely.
In fact, before an approval is granted, it is not just one visit by NUC officials.
Yes.
They will have the initial, you submit your paperwork, you submit your sustainability system, so you submit everything. There must be pictorial evidence. Yes. Yeah. You understand? Of this is the structure, this is what we want to use, these are the facilities we are working on, these are things that are in place, the leadership, the organogram. You understand? Because a university must exist with a governing council, a university must exist with a management body, because in the university system, a senate of a university is very important.
Yes, it
is. The senate of a university determines the programs run by universities. Yes. It's in charge of the award of certificates. It's in charge of academic activities. In fact, it is not the responsibility of any ministry or government agency to determine programs run and the criteria for admission or whatever. It is the responsibility because they award the certificate. And that is why when you grade from part 1 to the last, to your final whatever, until Senate sits on your certificate, at any point in time, the institution will even tell you that your certificate can be withdrawn.
Yes.
If it's found, if you are found to have done something questionable. So all these things, they are there, but are we following them? Absolutely no. As of today, I can tell you, there are, if you look at it, we are establishing private institutions. This thing is even very simple to identify. We are establishing private institutions. As far back as around 6 years ago, Professor Olufemi Bamiro, a former Vice Chancellor of University of Ibadan, conducted a research on the availability of lecturers in Nigeria. That how many do we have? How many are we supposed to have? I don't want to give figures, but there was a wide gap many years, about 10 years ago, because after he was Vice Chancellor there, he also moved to I think this University of Education in Ogun State, Taisho Larin, as the council chairman there. So you can see the number of years. So he conducted the research, which actually clearly shows the wide gap in terms of the human resources needed in our tertiary institutions. The number of professors, number of PhD holders. So unfortunately, these are the people that are now being rotated to work. So as you are increasing, unfortunately, this thing now came, Japa syndrome.
Yeah.
I can tell you how many institutions, at a time, in some universities, in a month, you have not less than 10 lecturers dropping their letter. Yes. I can tell you that some of them have resorted to online, so that when those lecturers left, they are still tactically using them. And there was embargo on recruitment for more than 8 years that Buhari was there. It has not even been totally lifted until the council came in now. There was no recruitment. If you want to recruit into any of those tertiary institutions, you have to write, instead of the council approving recruitment, you have to take your application to the ministry. You have to take it to head of civil service of the federation. You have to take it to Federal Character Commission. You must take it to Bureau of Public Procurement. So all these areas, yes, all these areas means that when you are taking them there, these people are giving you their own candidates. Yes. So if you need lecturers, the ones that they have, they are not lecturers, but they tell you you can bring them in. So you now have more administrative staff than even the academic staff that you needed. So when you go to institutions today, you have more candidates, you have fewer lecturers. And unfortunately, there are so many things that have to be discussed as regards the kind of the gaps that are existing.
You know, because very interesting package.
I'm so sorry, because I know your next question. But Moji, where is ASU? ASU will strike for pay. ASU will strike for better, better terms of service. Because we hear from the resident doctors, we hear from the medical staff so much about how JAPA is affecting the medical sector. I don't think I hear as much, particularly from ASU, as much as how JAPA is affecting the educational sector, especially at the university level. 8 years without being able to follow the right process to recruitment. That is what I think you should add to the striking details.
I don't want to believe that ASU seems to be overwhelmed. You know, when it has gotten to its stage, I must commend ASU. I must commend the unions on the campuses. Welfare is primary to them. I also fought them because there are things that we have done that we would have expected ASU to have voiced. There are instances of corruption on campuses, whether moral, academic, or financial corruption. They are there. If we want to open that chapter, we will not be able to leave this place. But what I'm saying is that ASU has consistently been championing the core for reforming the tertiary education sector in Nigeria. ASU has been saying that the JAPA syndrome is affecting the system. And that is why ASU, the only thing is that sometimes the public just want to read what they want. We pick headlines from what we just feel that ASU also emphasizes the idea of their welfare, an academic allowance, whatever, and they have their own issues among themselves too. But ASU, if I'm going to tell you, ASU is the foundation of TED Fund that you have today. as an intervention agency.
Yes.
ASU campaign started the campaign to have a kind of a tax that will be dedicated to university education. But unfortunately, they changed it by the way, and they turned it to tertiary education instead of university education. So what ASU has been doing, in fairness to the leadership, I think ASU remains one of the few unions that we have, and other unions within the academic institution, because that is where they have become so critical of the system, of the government, maybe because, but the kind of the challenge that they face, somebody who has not eaten, somebody you withheld the salary because he went on strike, just because he's advocating that this thing must change, and you believe that no, you cannot leave your work. How do you work? If you go to some of these institutions, you will pity these people.
Yes.
And I mean it. Yes. You will pity them. They have their own areas that we can tackle. But if the government has been able to do its own, I think it's going to be, we don't need all these private institutions. Yes, they can come in. Yeah. The children of the elite can go there. But I want to tell you, just like they have taken, what the government has been doing is the way they were successful in taking the primary and secondary education away from the public. Privatized, where it is now a thing of joy for me to say, oh, my child attends this private school. If anybody, any one of us here, if you want to, people will look down on you when you say, no, my son or my child attends. It is only our house helps that we push to those public schools. That is how much we have reduced them to. And that's what they want to achieve with the public universities, public tertiary institutions.
I need to really ask this question, because some of the reasons why some of these bodies are created, they are for specific purposes. When you say you're accrediting universities, like by the National Universities Commission, NUC, part of their duties is to maintain the quality of education that we're getting in the first place, especially in these private universities. That means they must do their due diligence. There are checklists that they must follow. So what regulations govern the establishment and operations of private tertiary institutions in Nigeria?
Yeah, if you want to start private tertiary institutions, they are not different from what actually govern. Like I mentioned earlier, you must have your criteria, you must meet the criteria, you must have the kind of the personnel, you must have the resources, you must have the land space. Just like even if you want to start private school, in an ID system, in fact, they are going to give you the shape of your school structure. They are going to tell you, they will make the measurement, they are going to tell you how much fire extinguisher you should have here, how many toilets you should have here. Even if you are starting anything, you know what you should have. The only problem that we have not been able to address is that issue of corruption. Since a sitting president could award to himself as a president, a vice president could award to himself as a vice president. So when the people come up today and start saying, no, this government is bad, you have failed to look at the foundation. How did it start? The problem that we have within the system, and today why I'm so surprised, is that there is nobody who will talk about renew. They say renewed hope. There can never be any renewed hope without a fundamental focus on education. Education is I see it as the fulcrum for national development. Unfortunately, if you look at the individual, we're not here to malign anybody. It begins with the correct appointment. You don't politicize education. You don't politicize it at all. It is the foundation. When Clinton was asked about his investment, whatever, he said the best investment is going to be in education under his watch. It is, if you take it, go and look at it. We have so many levels. Today, Nigeria focuses more on certificate. Nobody talks about we don't need the number of universities that we have. No. Must everybody go to university?
No, Mojid, pause. Wait, because that's my next question. Mojid, you've entered my level now. And the reason I'll say that is, this obsession with certificates, it's also what causes the situation between university and polytechnics, where we are downgrading certain classes or certain levels of education and certificates. The reason I say you should pause is, I know with Germany, there was a time that they did, I think it was under polytechnics, but trade schools. They did trade schools. The part of the educational system focused on making sure people were getting into trade schools, learning things like being mechanical engineers, being mechanics, being AC repairmen, being plumbers. And when you go there, so we call them artisans here, but if you see how much money these people are making, my sister got a bill for plumbing her house. She went to YouTube to go and fix it herself. But we don't regard these things. How are we going to fix that? Because I don't think everybody needs to go to university. No. That's a personal thing. People might say it's an elitist comment because I went to university. I own it. I went to university. But knowing what I know now, I probably would not have gone to university when I went to university if I knew where the economy and the world was going now. So let's talk about that. See, this whole everybody must go to university. Let's talk about it. But I ask it to ask this. Are we focusing too much on university and not focusing on primary and secondary school? Because it seems like the conversation is always on university. But if we put money into primary and secondary education and make sure that we get people going into secondary education and everybody comes out with a level, it puts us on a better level again, rather than just this whole conversation, this whole direction of pushing people into university pipeline.
Yeah, thank you so much. The problem that we have in Nigeria is that we run what I would describe as an inverted pyramid. We take what is necessary, what we should prioritize is not what we prioritize.
Put it at the bottom.
And you are going to look at it this way. It's only in Nigeria that you will have somebody who is running 2-3 masters and is working probably in the communication sector. Is the one to climb mast when they are going to work. The person to supervise is a technician from India or Malaysia. Because our emphasis is on certificate. And I must appreciate where I work, Premium Times. Premium Times today does not believe in your paperwork. We have employees who did not attend university or polytechnic or anything, but they have the skills, they have the quality, they have the competence. That is, I was surprised. I know many people who are surprised and say, how can Premium? It is what you can offer that matters. And that is what operates in our system. Where we got it wrong was the time that we started giving some kind of regard. And you say, if you have university certificate, you go to level 9. If you have a polytechnic, you go to level 7 or level 8. So it began by, you understand? And that unfortunately, there are a lot of university students in polytechnics. Yes. But one thing that we have even abandoned that is so critical is that we have left the education sector, that teaching sector, which is the primary. The doctors that will become a doctor will be taught by the teachers. I conducted a research some time ago between 2015, I think 2012 and 2015. And we look at it. Because of our terrible reward system, because you have placed some over and above others, now you had people who are no longer interested in going to college of education. Before, in the past, grade 2 is enough to make somebody very big. Teachers were models in societies. They were people who were trusted, who they believed, and they were models. People will be, Baba teacher is coming. It is a sign of respect. They had their baggies and everything. They were people who people looked up to. But unfortunately, we got it wrong when we started degrading them. We downgrade them. And we are now thinking that it's only when you are in the oil company, when you are in the, go to the correct environment where things run very perfectly. To become a teacher is a war. You have to, and you earn so well. So until we go back to that era. Now, I conducted that research. For about 5 years, I look at how many people were applying to study in various institutions, sitting UTME, that is Universal Tertiary Matriculation Examination. And I look at it, I saw an average of about 1.5 million candidates annually. But I look at where are they going? What courses were they trying to study? What were they doing? And I look at it, I saw that only about 80,000 will willingly choose to go to college of education. About 200,000, maybe less than 200,000 will want to study educational courses in universities. And the rest, they want to be lawyers, they want to be engineers, they want to. But why? Even those that chose to go to college of education, we call them the dregs. They were at the lowest bottom, those who will find it very difficult. And those are the people that you want them to become your teachers tomorrow. So that is the foundation. Because our reward system is bad, most of the things that we do in terms of education that we think, if you do this, so we just set very wrong foot. We place our cart before the horse. And unfortunately, until you are able to come back to realize that, look, this error that we have committed, that reward system must be changed. We need to attract quality to the education sector. For people to build a system, we don't need all these people going to university. I asked myself, since day one when I entered the university system, I'm sorry for going personal. My brothers, my parents wanted me to study law. I entered English. I just look at it. I said, do I need this thing? So I would just go to class. 70-80% of my classmates will run our this thing. They will ask you, what did I even gain from this school? I said, what we gained is not just because we went to the classes. It's because that was where we met and we decided on what we wanted to do. We only needed the exposure. We needed the environment to change our thinking, the orientation and everything. There is no university in the world that is going to teach you that this is what you are going to meet in the high conference. There is no university that will teach you. But what is going to teach you is that general skills.
So you know what? She said, always finding X. We're going to bring you back because there's another conversation on curriculum that needs to be had. But before we leave, you started going there, but I think the primary issue and the way to bring everything together is what is the social impact of this proliferation, of this push for private tertiary institutions in Nigeria in terms of our society, in terms of even planning for the future. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. We're in the world of the Internet of Things. We need universities to be teaching different courses. Let's leave the private universities. Some of them will claim they're offering these, international courses now. We need it in our public institutions. So when we look at the social impact of having so many approvals, again, he said 22 new private universities are waiting accreditation from the NUC. What is the social impact of that?
The unfortunate thing is that it has further lowered the standard because there is massive competition. When you see today we say the minimum to get, if you score 150, they say you are qualified to out of 400.
Yes.
So if you want to go to college or education or polytechnic, they say 110 or 100. So that is how much we have lowered the standard. Because they knew that if they did not do that, there are a lot of institutions out there. They have lecturers that they are paying, they have everything, but no candidates to meet up. So what it has done us is because we want people to just go there. Just push them to go there. So it has lowered the standard. They are now looking, many of those private institutions are looking for candidates at all costs. And that is why JAMB is kept on saying, that was why JAMB introduced what is called Central Admission Processing System, CABS. It means that if your name does not appear, they are still doing regularization for people who are admitted between 2017 and co. Because they found out that a lot of people were admitted illegally. What I mean by illegally, yes, it is true that it is the institutions that have the right to admit. But you look at it, they bend rules as they like. Nigerians, everything goes where you don't monitor. It's about money for hand, whatever. So that is the challenge. The only solution that we have, if you look at it, go and check how many people come for internship where you work. What do they bring to the table? So some of them, we are not just going to go there. If you look at it, it begins from what do they teach them in schools. We have relied on these theories. There is no really a collaboration between the TAN and GANs, a whole lot of them. And that is why you see that many of them who are developing a lot of things, it is outside their curriculum.
Yes, it is.
So they are just doing their things, and individually, people are growing. Somebody challenged me, an official challenged me and said, if you say we are not doing well, why are our people being sought after outside Nigeria? But I'm also asking the individual. There are the only areas where we do extremely, at least where we do far better, is because there are other regulatory agencies. Let's say, for instance, like METI. You have the MDCN, you have the whatever. So those ones, because there are conditions, even at that, institutions will still fail to do the right thing, the normal standard. You will see them, they will admit beyond the carrying capacity. And like I said the last time, a private university was actually being monitored, was run by the current Minister of Education. While he was the Minister of Education, as the former DG of Nigerian Law School, a senior advocate of Nigeria, he still admitted beyond the carrying capacity for the law student. Law, for instance, where he came from, and is a member of the system. And what did we say at the end of the day? Today, that base university cannot admit, I think for the next 2-3 years, we will not be able to admit law students. That was the verdict. So it shows that he that goes to equity
Must
Must come with clean hands.
So what happens to our
Wow. This powerful
Must come with
conversation.
clean
Honestly,
hands.
and
Yes.
this is a good place to land the conversation because
now.
for now, because that's the much we can take. Mojeed Alabi, Head of Development Desk, Premium Times, and of course, Chairman, Education Rights Association Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
It's been a
you.
very
Thank
rich
you.
and insightful, eye-opening conversation. And of course, we have to go now. Thank you so much for watching. And tomorrow is Hot Topic Special. We'll be opening the phone line, so stay close to your phone, stay close to your TV because it's about to go down. We'll see you tomorrow from me and the ladies.
Bye.